situation, the is situation is what we want to go away from, and the mission is what do we want to go towards. And you need both these energies in order to, and you need to do it in a way that is very convincing and logic. You know, I think everything I've said in this presentation, you knew it. Nothing was new. Nothing was strange. You know why? This is universal knowledge. And we have tried to make something that is extremely complex understandable. And it's much more difficult, I tell you, to make something complex understandable than to make something understandable complex. The last one is much, much easier. So you need to really get this trust from the organization in order to start to deal with the structure. They need to believe that we can do it. Not that I can do it, but guys, we can do it. I have the tools, we've seen it before, we can lead you step by step, and then you decide if you want to do it or not. So yeah, that's a very important part of it, of course, how to do it. And then, by the way, yeah, I take other questions. I can get back to the by the way.
And by the way?
Yeah, I will take the by the way. What do I need to do when I have a new structure? What do? You just leave it like that and then everything's fine? No, sure not. Because now you need to find, I will tell you, you make a new structure. One of the reasons for not making a new structure in a lot of situations is, you know what, we cannot do it. Our IT system won't allow it. What? Yeah, and our information flow in the company will be messed up. It's like reconstructing an old house. It's not just to build new walls or make new rooms. You need to look at the plumbing and the electric systems and the infrastructure. So that's the next thing. You need to reinforce the structure with a new accountability system, with new reporting and information flow in the company. So, I mean, the next stage is just as important and maybe even technically more complicated than to make the new structure. To make the new structure, you need really trust. They need to trust you that you can do this. But to do the other part, you need a lot of intelligence, know-how for how to do this. So you make, I don't know who is the right one to quote, but I've heard this, organizational structures should be made by genius so they can be run by idiots, rather than being made by idiots so they need genius to run them. And you need a lot of knowledge to build the next stage to reinforce this.
More questions? Can I ask you a follow-up on your, by the way, did you deal with the garment structure? I'm curious, did you deal with the changing the garment structure?
Yeah.
Any insights on that? Because unfortunately what we see in my country is basically the wrong structure, the wrong process, just killing whoever people, you know, come there.
Yeah. Well, personally, I have only been assisting on the sideline in this situation, but Dr. Adizes has worked with several governments. And as you say, I always fail. Because this is very, very difficult, because it's literally political. So just to take a cabinet inside the room and tell them, guys, what is going on? What's the problems of the country? I don't know if they would be willing to share it. By the way, I've had political experience myself, so I know it's something you can speak about and something you won't speak about when others are listening. Because what are politicians afraid of? They're afraid of the media. So if I say this and you write it down, or we start to operate, media is waiting outside. What will they do? They think we're falling apart. They think this government has no control. So it's better to pretend we're in control, even though we have no pants, than to say, guys, we need to fix this. So it's very, very difficult to change. But we're trying, and we're really trying, also in order to test out the methodology. How far can we stretch it? But it is very, very difficult.
It would be interesting to structure, I mean, if, just an idea, if the Adizes Institute wants to deal with the designing the ideal garment structure, because there's still, you know, even in the garment, there are E-rolls, there are A-rolls, there are P-rolls.
Sure.
And the structure is completely wrong. You know, you have all the possible conflicts that you might have, plus politics and all
Sure,
that stuff.
sure.
So as a, just an intellectual assignment, if you can produce something, ideal garment structure that would be in demand by
It is. And I believe we have the elements to do it, because this is in theory it's the same thing. You need, first of all, you need to look at where is this country on the life cycle. Is this something that should be a democracy, or should it be a benevolent dictatorship? I'm a believing Democrat. I believe in democracy. I believe in transparency. I believe in, it's easy for me. I grew up in Scandinavia. Everything is open, so it's no problem. But I realize that there's parts of this world that are not ready for democracy. So how do you make a structure that is hands-on, but at the same time, as I say, benevolent and can operate? So yeah, I agree. We have the elements. We should.
I have one more question. So, speaking about Czechia, you have definitely a lot of experiences working in different geographical locations, different cultures. So, how do you see the major difference, let's say, working, structuring organization, despite the place in the life cycle? Differences in culture, in easiness to work, when you've been working in the more mature, democratic, let's say, countries. I'm talking about business, not governance now. Mm-hmm. And in some kind of a wild market economy or newly born countries, So how it was easy, to go with, and where it was easy or more difficult to go?
That's a very interesting question, and I think the reason why I have got stuck with adhesives is that I saw that this is, if there's something called color blind, this is a cultural blind methodology, because it works just as well in one culture as in another culture. Because, as I said, there's some when we explain our approaches or methodology, and it's actually advanced, but everyone understands what we talk about, no matter where we deliver it. So, of course, there are different challenges in growing undisciplined cultures than in mature, structured, democratic, open structures. But, I mean, the results are just the same. I would say that if I should evaluate where is it more difficult, I would say that to work in advanced, if we can say something is more advanced, I think we can, cultures or cultures that have been democratic, open, participative, because remember, this is what we call collaborative, participative management. This is what we preach. But you need to know, when do I need Dalai Lama and when do I need Genghis Khan? And it's not only one way to do things, guys. It depends, where am I? What do I need to do? What is the situation? And I would say that the most difficult cultures to work in is in cultures like my own, in Scandinavia, in Western Europe, where there's a tendency to say, we know how to do this, we've seen it, we've been there, we've done it before, come on, this is all this, 45 years, you're passé. 45 years, we're still testing it, we're still in the laboratory. It's very new, but this is not how it's considered. If it was not from last year, it's old. So in this kind of cultures, it's more driven by buzzwords and managerial theories and whizword, rather than how does it really work. I've been working a lot in Russia, in Ukraine, and it's a very, very different adaptation of this, because they're on a stage of the life cycle now where businesses, companies really see that, wow, we need this. And if I may, just to continue on this, one very interesting observation I did after working in Russia. I worked there for several years now, and in Ukraine the same, is that all companies were 20-something years old, except from the really big state because everyone was started after 91, 92, and everyone was started by a founder, usually a man and a wife, a man and a husband, and now they come to, the companies are big, but they come to the stage where they are in go-go or adolescence and they need control because they've grown all over the place and they don't know what is going on. So they started with very, very little business knowledge, business experience, executive knowledge, and all of a sudden they're running an empire and they don't know how to do it. So this is the common denominator for the companies we're working in, and that's why they're so grateful and so adaptable to what we want to do. So the biggest challenge working in that market is that they're running too fast. They want to do the next stage, and then the next stage. Can we start with structure? No, 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 take it easy. So, yeah, there's differences, but we can operate in any kind of culture. At least the cultures I worked in, it worked. It worked. But guys, of course, it also fails. It's not up to me, it's not up to us, it's also up to the client. I mean, I failed just as many times as we succeeded. Because if someone, this energy company I showed you, in a way, great success, but I felt we failed. Why? Because there came a new owner. They were bought anyway. And the new owner changed everything. In a way, I wouldn't change it. Okay. Any more questions? I don't know. There's a lot to say about structures and change, but I think if there's no more questions, I'm happy.
Actually, I do not want to give all questions myself, but I'm really curious because for me it's interesting your experiences. For example, you just mentioned the new CEO came, so and it did not work.
The new what?
The new CEO came.
Yeah.
So then you start, to work with the company. How much attention do you pay with whom you are working? Because I know in our methodology you always have a meeting with the CEO, etc. Did you have in your experiences when you met CEO and you, after that meeting, you understood what you cannot work with that organization?
Oh yeah. So, yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Several times. I met the CEO and I understood, by the way, right now I'm in a situation in Switzerland where we have a client, we started to work with them and we resigned the client. Why? Because we cannot solve their problems. Why? Because it's not really a company problem, it's an owner problem. So the family is fighting. I mean, family fights is really, really bad. When you have family companies and they start to fight, keep out of it. I don't know what kind of therapist can help them, but we cannot. And I know that if we do it just because we want to do it for our ego or for the money, we're going to fail big time. And by the way, this methodology is actually therapy. It's organizational therapy. And the first rule of therapy is never harm the client. Never harm the client. You should not go there if you cannot help the client. So yes, and I have several times met the CEO, understood that, guys, we cannot do it for whatever reason. But thank God, the majority of cases, if the client is ready to do it, we're ready to be it. So yeah, sure.
Yes, now during last year's